Time of the gentleman has expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Chairman, I got 5 minutes to try to convince you not to raise interest rates till the spring. Well, I mean, spring is when things naturally are risen. It's when plants come out of the ground. It's a better time than winter and there are some reasons that I think you're already aware of. The IMF study, for example, argues that things should be delayed until early next year. You've got more economic experience than all of us in this room, of course, but on the political side, you should not underestimate the ability of politicians in Europe to screw things up. You should not underestimate the ability of politicians in Washington to screw things up. You need to price in the prospect that we do not pass all the appropriations bills, that we do not raise the debt limit. China, I'm sure you factored in, but it's not just Beijing and Washington that you need to worry about. You need to worry about Norwalk, Connecticut. I mentioned this to you when you were here a few months ago, and I'm hoping that you can get your staff to do a study on this, both for two purposes. One, to let the country know how important this is and what its economic effect will be, and the second, to inform your own decision so that if this prospective terrible decision does occur, you factor in the fact that it's going to shave half a point away from our economic growth at least. I'm referring, of course, as you know, to the argument that we're going to capitalize all leases. This would add $2 trillion to the corporate balance sheets liabilities of America, a $2 trillion increase in liabilities, not because anything's happened in the economy, but just because as a matter of theological, esoteric accounting thinking that I have to confess I actually understand, and no one should, but for no benefit to our economy, we may add $2 trillion. When you do that, you throw all the balance sheet ratios out of whack, you force companies to try to retrench and make their balance sheets look better, and you strongly disincentivize entering into long-term leases. Companies will say, well, gee, yes, you can open that shopping center. Why don't we sign a one-year lease for the anchor store? And, oh, we'll renew it later, but we can't sign more than a one-year lease because our balance sheet will look terrible. So if you factor all those reasons in, maybe that'll push you in the right direction, but there are more. The reason to raise interest rates, the one other that you're already aware of, and that is our unemployment rate doesn't capture all those who have dropped out of the labor market. We have an all-time low labor participation rate. When you adjust for that, the unemployment rate does not justify an increase. The reason given to raise interest rates is to deal with the prospect of inflation. Inflation is already very low. You've got a 2% target, you're not hitting it. You got to keep interest rates low to hit that target, but by the way, that's too low a target. Lawrence Ball and other economists have argued for even a 4% rate. And it's in real business where things stick, where you may have an employee who gets fired who might not get fired if there was an easy way to reduce their cost by 2 or 3%. And then finally, you have all the baby boomer retirees, and I will point, it's not in your mandate, but it is in the Declaration of Independence, a desire for happiness. There are economists and CPAs for whom a 1% real interest rate is always a 1% real interest rate. That's way less than 1% of the people. For everyone else, they live in a nominal world. And if you're a retiree in a zero inflation rate, 1% real interest rate world, you're living on 1% because you psychologically cannot invade principal. If instead you're in a 3% inflation, 4% interest rate, 1% real rate of return world, you are deliriously happy. You are earning 4%, and nominally you are not invading principal. And this works for everybody except economists and CPAs, which means just about everybody. So please, wait till spring.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The chair recognizes now the gentleman